The Wanderer's Hope tumbled out of hyperspace like a drunk stumbling from a bar, its navigation systems completely fried from what Captain Sarah Chen would later describe as Tuesday. The human exploration vessel had been testing a new faster-than-light drive when a solar flare hit their homeworld, sending an electromagnetic pulse through their jump coordinates. Instead of arriving at Proxima Centauri, they found themselves in what appeared to be the middle of a cosmic traffic jam. "Well, that's new," muttered Chief Engineer Rodriguez, watching through the viewport as ships the size of small moons drifted past them. Each vessel bristled with enough weaponry to glass a planet, their hulls decorated with symbols that practically screamed, "We will obliterate you for sport." The communications array crackled to life, and a voice that sounded like grinding metal spoke in what the Universal Translator helpfully identified as threatening galactic standard. "Unknown vessel, you have violated the sacred borders of the Vorthak Empire. Prepare to be boarded, interrogated, and subsequently vaporized." Captain Chen rubbed her temples. She'd been having a particularly rough week. The coffee machine had broken Monday. The artificial gravity had gone wonky Tuesday, and now this. She opened a channel. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel. Wanderer's Hope. We seem to have taken a wrong turn at Albuquerque. Could you point us toward the exit?" The silence that followed was deafening. Aboard the Vorthak flagship Doom's Anvil, Supreme Admiral Kethrak stared at his communication officers with all four of his eyes. In his 3 centuries of service, no one had ever responded to the Empire's standard intimidation protocol with what appeared to be mild inconvenience. Did they just ask for directions?" he whispered. "Yes, Supreme Admiral," squeaked Communications Officer Zelt. "And, sir? Their ship appears to be held together with some kind of metallic adhesive tape." Admiral Kethrak's mandibles clicked, nervously. Any species that flew through space in vessels repaired with tape either possessed technology so advanced it defied comprehension, or they were completely insane. Neither option was particularly comforting. The boarding party that arrived on the Wanderer's Hope 30 minutes later was a sight to behold. 12 Vorthak warriors, each standing 8 feet tall and armed with plasma rifles that could punch through starship hulls, marched into the human ship's cargo bay with all the menace their species could muster. They found the humans having lunch. "Oh, hey there!" called out Dr. Martinez, the ship's xenobiologist, waving cheerfully with a sandwich in hand. "You guys hungry? We've got plenty of peanut butter and jelly. Fair warning, though, some of you might be allergic to nuts." The lead warrior, Captain Vex, had conquered 17 star systems and reduced 3 civilizations to ash. He had never been offered a sandwich by his victims before. "Silence, primitive mammals!" he roared, raising his weapon. "You will submit to interrogation or face the wrath of the Vorthak Empire." Chief Rodriguez looked up from his lunch with the expression of a man who had once spent 6 months trapped in a broken elevator with his ex-wife. "Look, buddy, we've had a really long day. Could you maybe dial it back to like a 7? You're currently at about an 11. Captain Vex's weapon wavered. Something was wrong. These creatures should be cowering in terror, begging for mercy, not critiquing his intimidation technique. The situation deteriorated further when Captain Chen arrived, took one look at the boarding party, and sighed. "Let me guess. We accidentally flew into someone's restricted space. You're going to threaten us with various creative forms of death, and then demand we surrender our ship and crew." Yes, that is exactly. How did you know?" Chen shrugged. "Happened to us last Tuesday with space pirates, and the Tuesday before that with a rogue AI collective, and last month with those guys who worshipped a black hole." She paused. Do you guys also have a dramatic monologue about your empire's might and our inevitable doom? Because if so, could you speed it up? We're trying to get home in time for Rodriguez's daughter's quinceañera. The Vorthak warriors exchanged uncertain glances. In their culture, fear was the appropriate response to overwhelming force. These humans seemed to treat interdimensional warfare like a minor traffic violation. You do not understand, Vex said, his voice losing some of its menace. The Vorthak Empire spans 10,000 star systems. We have ground entire civilizations to dust beneath our boots. That's nice, said Dr. Martinez. We had a species try to do that to us once. They called themselves the Master Race, had really snappy uniforms and everything. Didn't work out for them. He took another bite of his sandwich. You guys seem more polite, though. Points for that. The interrogation that followed was unlike anything in Vorthak military history. Instead of extracting information through fear and pain, they found themselves in what could only be described as an awkward job interview. So, Chen said, settling into a chair while Vex's warriors stood around looking confused. What's your empire's policy on refugee resettlement? We've got about 12 billion people back home who are getting pretty tired of living on a planet that actively tries to kill them every few months. Our refugee policy? Vex repeated blankly. Yeah, natural disasters, economic inequality, the occasional existential crisis. You know, the usual. We're looking for somewhere with decent weather and hopefully fewer things that spontaneously catch fire. Admiral Kethrak, who had been monitoring the conversation from his flagship, found himself in the unprecedented position of being educated about Earth by the very creatures he had intended to vaporize. The humans spoke casually of surviving ice. Ages, nuclear weapons, climate change, and something called social media, with the same tone others might use to discuss minor inconveniences. Let me see if I understand this correctly, he said, having transported aboard personally. Your species survived multiple extinction events, developed weapons capable of destroying your own planet, and yet your greatest concern is that you might miss a family celebration? Captain Chen nodded. Pretty much. Look, we've seen empires rise and fall before. Usually they get too big, too proud, and then reality comes along with a baseball bat. But you guys seem organized, and your ships are pretty nice. Maybe we could work something out. The Supreme Admiral of the Vorthak Empire, conqueror of worlds and terror of the galaxy, found himself seriously considering a trade agreement with a species that had accidentally wandered into his territory, and responded to his threats by offering them lunch. 3 hours later, the Wanderer's Hope departed Vorthak space with detailed star charts, a diplomatic contact frequency, and a case of Vorthak military rations. They taste better than they look, Chief Rodriguez had noted diplomatically. As they jumped back into hyperspace, Dr. Martinez looked around at his crewmates. So, anyone else think that went better than expected? Captain Chen activated the ship's log. Captain's log, supplemental. Successfully made first contact with Galactic Empire. Avoided interstellar war through strategic deployment of peanut butter sandwiches and casual attitude toward cosmic horror. Note to self: pack more snacks for next diplomatic mission. Behind them, the Vorthak Empire found itself facing an unprecedented crisis. For the first time in their history, they had encountered a species that seemed genuinely unimpressed by their capacity for destruction. The humans had looked at their vast armadas and saw not instruments of terror, but potential neighbors who might want to grab coffee sometime. It would take the Empire's philosophers decades to understand that they had encountered something far more dangerous than any military force. a species that had survived so much that nothing in the galaxy could truly frighten them anymore. And somewhere in the vastness of space, the Wanderer's hope continued its journey home, its crew all ready, planning their next accidental adventure.